complicated soul, why not go for it? But I admit, most of the time, I walk around here feeling like a total idiot. Most people in the world outside my head know me as Mo, even though my real name is Tom. Mo isn't a normal nickname. It's more like an abbreviation, short for Chimo. And even that's an abbreviation for something else. Often, when people hear Chimo, they'll smile and say, "Hippie parents?" I never know what to say to that because, yes, my folks are more hippie than not, but no, that's not where the name comes from. Chimo is derogatory, though you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you heard the story behind it. Yet even those who don't know the specific story can sense its dark origins, which is why it has held on for so long. They get a kick out of it without really knowing why. Maybe they notice me wincing when I hear them say it, but I don't know. There are all sorts of reasons I could be wincing. Life is a wince-a-thon. There's a list of around 30 or 40 supposedly insulting things that people have called me that I know about, past and present, and a lot of them are way worse than Mo. Some are classic and logical, like hender pig, hender fag, or hender fuck. Some are based on jokes or convoluted theories of offensiveness that are so retarded no one could ever hope to understand them. Like sheepy. Figure that one out and you win a prize. As for Chimo, it goes all the way back to the 7th grade, and it wouldn't even be worth mentioning except for the fact that this particular nickname ended up playing an unexpectedly prominent role in the weird stuff that happened toward the end of this school term. So, I thought I'd mention it. Mr. Tioni, the associate principal for the 9th and 10th grades, always refers to Sam Hellerman as Peggy. I guess he's trying to imply that Sam Hellerman looks like a girl. Well, okay, so maybe Sam Hellerman does look a little like a girl in a certain way, but that's not the point. In fact, Mr. Tioni happens to have a huge rear end and pretty prominent man boobs, and looks way more like a lady than Sam Hellerman ever could unless he were to gain around 200 pounds and start a course of hormone therapy. Clearly, he's trying to draw attention away from his own non-traditionally gendered form factor by focusing on the alleged femininity of another. Though why he decided to pick on Sam Hellerman as part of his personal battle against his own body image remains a mystery. I'm just glad it's not me who gets called Peggy, because who needs it? There's always a bit of suspense about the particular way in which a given school year will get off to a bad start. This year, it was an evil omen, like when druids observe an owl against the moon in the first hour of Samhain and conclude that a grim doom awaits the harvest. That kind of thing can set the tone for the rest of the year. What I'm getting at is, the first living creature Sam Hellerman and I encountered when we penetrated the school grounds on the first day of school was none other than Mr. Tioni. The sky seemed suddenly to darken. We were walking past the faculty parking, and he was seated in his beat-up 93 GO prison, struggling to force his supersized body through the open car door. We hurried past, but he noticed us just as he finally squeezed through. He stood by the car, panting heavily from the effort and trying to tuck his shirt into his pants so that it would stay in for longer than a few seconds. "Good morning, Peggy," he said to Sam Hellerman. "So you decided to risk another year." He turned to me and bellowed, "Henderson?" Then he did this big theatrical salute and waddled away, laughing to himself. He always calls me by my last name, and he always salutes. Clearly, mocking me and Sam Hellerman is more important than the preservation of his own dignity. He seems to consider it to be part of his job, which tells you just about everything you need to know about Hillmont High School society. It could be worse. Mr. Donnelly, PE teacher and sadist supreme, along with his jabbering horde of young sports troglodytes in training, never bother with Mo or Peggy, and they don't salute. They prefer to say pussy and hit you on the ear with a cupped palm. According to an article called Physical Interrogation Techniques in one of my magazines, Today's Mercenary, this can cause damage to the eardrum and even death when applied accurately. But Mr. Donnelly and his minions are not in it for the accuracy. They operate on pure, mean-spirited, status-conscious instinct, which usually isn't very well thought out. Lucky for me, they're so poorly trained, or I'd be in big trouble. But there's no point fretting about what people call you. Enough ill will can turn anything into an attack, even your own actual name. "I think he's making fun of your army coat," said Sam Hallerman as we headed inside. Maybe that was it. I admit, I did look a little silly in the coat, especially since I hardly ever took it off, even in the hottest weather. I couldn't take it off, for reasons I'll get to in a bit. I know Sam Hallerman because he was the guy right before me in alphabetical order from the 4th through 8th grades. You spend that much time standing next to somebody, you start to get used to each other. He's the closest thing I have to a friend, and he's an all right guy. I don't know if he realizes that I don't bring much to the table friendship-wise. I let him do most of the talking. I usually don't have a comment. "There's no possibility of life on other planets in this solar system," he'll say. Silence. "Well, let me rephrase that. There's no possibility of carbon-based life on other planets in this solar system." "Really?" I'll say after a few beats. "Oh yeah," he'll say. "No chance." He always has lots to say. He can manage for both of us. We spend a lot of time over each other's houses watching TV and playing games. There's a running argument about whose house is harder to take. Mine is goofy and resembles an insane asylum. His is silent and grim and forbidding and bears every indication of having been built on an ancient Indian burial ground. We both have a point, but he usually wins and comes to my house because I've got a TV in my room and he doesn't. TV can really take the edge off. Plus, he has a taste for prescription tranquilizers, and my mom is his main unwitting supplier. Sam Hallerman and I are in a band. I mean, we have a name and a logo, and the basic design for the first 3 or 4 album covers. We changed the name a lot, though. A typical band lasts around 2 weeks, and some don't even last long enough for us to finish designing the logo, let alone the album covers. When we arrived at school that first day, right at the end of August, the name was Easter Monday. But Easter Monday only lasted from first period through lunch, when Sam Hallerman took out his notebook in the cafeteria and said, "Easter Monday is kind of gay. How about baby batter?" I nodded. I was never that wild about Easter Monday, to tell you the truth. Baby batter was way better. By the end of lunch, Sam Hallerman had already made a rough sketch of the logo, which was Gothic lettering inside the loops of an infinity symbol. That's the great thing about being in a band. You always have a new logo to work on. "When I get my bass," Sam Hallerman said, pointing to another sketch he had been working on, "I'm going to spray paint baby on it. Then you can spray paint batter on your guitar, and as long as we stay on our sides of the stage, we won't need a banner when we play on TV." I didn't even bother to point out that by the time we got instruments and were in a position to worry about what to paint on them for TV appearances, the name Baby Batter would be long gone. This was for notebook purposes only. I decided my Baby Batter stage name would be Guitar Guy, which Sam Hallerman carefully wrote down for the first album credits. He said he hadn't decided on a stage name yet, but he wanted to be credited as playing bass in Scientology. That's Sam Hallerman. He's kind of brilliant in his way. "Know any drummers?" he asked as the bell rang, as he always does. Of course I didn't. I don't know anyone apart from Sam Hallerman. The Catcher Cult. So that's how the school year began, with Easter Monday fading into Baby Batter. I like to think of those first few weeks as the Baby Batter weeks. Nothing much happened, or rather, quite a lot of stuff was happening as it turns out, but I wouldn't find out about any of it till later. So for me, the baby batter weeks were characterized